Hello, and welcome to this introduction to Outcome 5 of the Quality and Improvement Outcomes Framework. It is one of a series of support webinars for NHS Library and Knowledge Specialists. My name is Claire Edwards, and I am the Deputy Head of Library and Knowledge Services working across Midlands and the East of England, and I will be taking you through this presentation on Outcome 5. Outcome 5 is about evidence-based practice and research in library service development and innovation. Evidence-based practice is not something which library and knowledge specialists just support for others. It is something which we should practice to ensure the continuing improvement of our services. So in this webinar, we will look at details about what the outcome covers and why it is important, how it may help in thinking about ways to improve service, how the levels may be applied to this particular outcome and the distinctions between each level. We will consider some useful questions to think about in relation to this outcome and its application. And looking back to 2018 pilot, we will consider some of the good practice and evidence we noted in the pilot. And finally, we will think about some of the features that would indicate a service and organisation working at level 4. This outcome shows how library and knowledge specialists implement evidence-based practice in the planning, design and delivery of the activities, products and facilities they provide. The outcome focus is that the library and knowledge service evolves in a planned and structured way based on the best available evidence and professional knowledge. There is an emphasis on evaluating and sharing the changes in practice to both prevent duplication of errors and to ensure the spread of good practice and building of the evidence research base. Ultimately, the focus is on the organisation supporting the library and knowledge specialists in developing a culture of both evidence-based practice and research within the library service. The outcome excludes the identification and provision of research evidence and good practice to the users of library and knowledge services. This is covered in other outcomes such as 2 and 3. So what do we mean by evidence-based practice? If you look at the glossary that accompanies the framework, you will see the following definitions that have been used, taken from Being Evidence-Based in Library and Information Practice. So what's the definition for evidence-based? It's the available body of facts and information. It includes research evidence, both quantitative and qualitative, local evidence, such as statistics, service evaluations, and professional knowledge, such as good practice. The definition of evidence-based practice. Decisions about development and/or running of the library and knowledge service are rooted in the evidence base. Practitioners may also conduct their own research to help grow the evidence base. There are many ways in which this outcome might help in decision making and service improvement. The framework itself will help to assess the extent to which services are based on the best evidence and then support in considering service needs to be developed in this area. Being evidence-based will support business planning decisions for the service and demonstrate justification for proposed changes. It supports the continuous development for both library and knowledge specialists as well as for the service. And it demonstrates that the service is putting the evidence base into practice by contributing to research. I am now going to go through and describe each of the levels of Outcome 5. As with all the outcomes in the framework, Progression from level 0 to level 4 will take you through an increasingly mature model of service delivery. An organisation working at level 0 for this outcome may be one which has not arranged access to library and knowledge professionals and their service, or where there is a library and knowledge service in place, it has not yet developed or isn't delivering against the outcome 5. It might be that the service is only just at the beginning of its journey for this particular outcome, and that there isn't yet a consistent and systematic approach across all the team members of keeping up to date with good practice. Level 1 focuses on keeping up to date with good practice, discussing with the team, and applying the learning to service changes. Team members will be keeping up to date with good practice, be this through reading, current awareness, attending conferences, etc. This knowledge will be discussed and shared across the team. When a change to practice is required, the service will look to the most appropriate evidence or professional knowledge, e.g., innovations and developments shared by other services to inform the development. As we've already discussed in other webinars, the key aim of the Quality and Improvement Outcomes Framework is service improvement. And as such, there will be an expectation that all services will have a service improvement plan as a result of this baseline evaluation. For services operating at level 0 and level 1 in one or more of the outcome, organisations should expect a more intensive monitoring of these service plans and to work closely with HEE's Library and Knowledge Service Leads who will provide support and guidance for service improvement. Level 2 moves from an ad hoc to a more systematic approach to evaluating and reviewing the evidence, to both identify improvements and to inform change. So a process of ongoing evaluation and review of the evidence is in place in the library. The learning from the evaluation review is applied to service developments and improvements. And quality improvement methods might be used to routinely support this. The service and staff are also proactive in sharing good practice and lessons learned with the wider library and knowledge community. Level 3 is where the Library and Knowledge Service team are delivering a truly evidence-based library and knowledge service. Decisions about both development and running the library are rooted in evidence. Review and evaluation of the service also includes cost-benefit analysis of the service developments and improvements. So as well as the team acting on the evidence, the team is also contributing to update of the evidence. And in updating the evidence, the team are contributing to the research base by either sharing case studies, identifying the implications for the profession, or starting to contribute or collaborate on research projects. For Level 4, the Library and Knowledge Service team are truly aspiring to develop their own culture of research practice that is supported by the organisation. Team members are encouraged and given the time and opportunity to identify and carry out formal library and knowledge service related research. This could be done just within the library or working collaboratively across organisations or with other departments in the Trust. This culture of research is embedded as part of the evidence-based service approach of the team. The outcomes of this formal research are contributed to the library and knowledge evidence base. When self-evaluating against each of the outcomes, there is a need to think about where current activity maps against the levels and the areas where improvements can start to be made. I will now go through some questions to consider to assist with the self-evaluation and to support service improvement. The first set of questions on this slide consider the Library and Knowledge Service team. So, think about how the team members keep up to date, how the team adapts to change and how they introduce new services and improvement. Think about how, and the frequency, Library and Knowledge Service team members contribute to the evidence base. I will give you an opportunity now to read through the questions. The next set of questions consider the service, the developments and innovation that have been implemented and/or are in development, the way of planning and managing new developments, and how evidence and research is used by the service. Again, I will give you another opportunity to read through the questions. In the Quality and Improvement Standards pilot in 2018, the equivalent standard was Library and Knowledge staff use findings from the evidence base to inform service improvement and development. After validation, most of the pilot sites were at levels 2 and 3 out of 5 for this area. Some good practice that was identified included services that were contributing to the evidence base by sharing at national conferences and across networks. Some services had processes to ensure consultation and views supported service development. And some services used quality improvement tools such as PDSA, which is Plan, Do, Study, Act. There was also some evidence of adoption of good practice. The evidence submitted in the pilot showed that services are using literature to support developments and review, sharing and contributing to the evidence. However, this approach to service improvement was reactive and ad hoc rather than proactive. I want to cover now some of the feedback given to the pilot sites. The comment given to most of the pilot sites was about having a systematic approach to evidence-based practice and ensuring it was also proactive in identifying changes and developments. Also posed to the pilot site was how the learning by the team is shared, but then also informs service development. So some pointers were also given about how the evidence could be improved, and I'll go through some of these now. So firstly, the evidence included needs to demonstrate how the service is using the evidence base to support decision making and developments. It needs to demonstrate how the Library and Knowledge Service captures and uses the evidence to plan for service development. There's a need to show how the service developments are underpinned by literature and research. And in reviewing the evidence, to consider how this could be used for practice as well as CPD. There needs to be clear evidence that the service development is based on external evidence that is reviewed in a systematic way and then used to guide improvements. There was a suggestion about using a variety of sources of evidence, including the published, to show evidence of ideas that have been adapted from other services, and to show how the review of evidence relates to current service plans. So I now want to go through some useful resources for this outcome. As mentioned earlier, you can look at the glossary to accompany the outcomes framework. This provides both definitions related to this outcome and also details of some useful resources. One of the resources mentioned is the book Being Evidence-Based in Library and Information Practice. Alison Brettle, who co-edited this, has also recorded a short webinar for us on evidence-based practice. There are also resources on the Learning Zone. There's a page on quality and improvement methods, and under construction is a page on research skills. So if you have any questions on this outcome, please do get in touch with your regional contact. Details can be found on this slide. Thank you for listening to this presentation.